when it comes to the soothing light at the end of your tunnel, it's just a freight train coming your way. So if you're seeing a light, it's a freight train. Just put your head down and go to work. It's about to be fun, man. It's about to be fun.
When it comes to being the soothing light at the end of your tunnel, it's just a freight train coming your way. It's coming your way. It's coming your way. Oh yeah! Here it comes!
The Detroit Lions are getting a lot of attention lately, and as a fan, I love to see it. Too often has this been the franchise that has sports media cut to commercial when they are on the clock. Now, they are gaining a lot of steam and being looked at in a positive light from many pundits. This is extremely encouraging, and really a breath of fresh air as a Lions fan. And I attest pretty much all of it to the culture change that has been undertaken since Sheila Hamp took over and hired people who love the organization just as much as their fans, like Chris Spielman and Barry Sanders, to help her in her coaching and general manager search, eventually landing on Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, who have embraced the moniker of Same Old Lions and are working to do away with it forever. Judging by recent media perception, I think that they may be well on their way to doing so. Because of this positive media, and just looking at the talent additions that I covered in my last video, one thing that I get asked a lot and see a lot online is, can the Lions actually make the playoffs? Before I get too far into it, I want to stress that this is an extremely young roster entering only the second year of a massive culture and talent rebuild. Heck, Michael Brockers is the only player out of the 90 currently rostered over the age of 29. Coming off of a 3-13-1 season with one of the worst defenses in the league, I don't think Lions fans should expect to make the playoffs in 2022. Seeing growth and a much more competitive team should be what we expect. This will save from harsh disappointment that would be rather unwarranted for fans trying to speed up the process. Campbell and Holmes got contracts for 5+ years for a reason. For a franchise waiting 30 years now for a playoff win, it really doesn't hurt to set our eyes on waiting one more year. With this disclaimer out of the way so I don't get railed in the comments, I don't think it's impossible for the Lions to make the playoffs, and here's why. For this exercise, we will have to start with the big picture of the power structure of the league, and it plays into the benefit of Detroit that they are in the top-heavy NFC, as the AFC has 11, possibly 12 teams that could easily make the playoffs. Pittsburgh being the 12th because their head coach has yet to have a losing season. The NFC, however, stacks up like this, with 3 Super Bowl or bust teams in the defending world champion Rams, the Bucs, and the Packers. All 3 were playoff teams last year. Joining them in the playoff favorite tier just underneath are the other 4 teams from last year's playoff field: Dallas, Philly, San Francisco, and Arizona. And a team that missed the playoffs last year, but has one of the better rosters in the NFC in Minnesota. Minnesota is moved up here because I like their top-end talent a lot, and I think they can truly push for the NFC North title over Green Bay, even with a new coach and GM at the helm. In the next tier below that, you have Washington, who have a solid defense and some playmakers, but a giant question mark at quarterback in Carson Wentz. A Giants team that I think people should keep an eye on, as I like the moves that they've been making. Big factor for them will be the play of Daniel Jones. You'll notice in this hopefuls tier that these teams have a lot of talent, but a lot will ride on the play of their quarterbacks. Jameis Winston in New Orleans with the return of Michael Thomas and the addition of 11th overall pick Chris Olave could make some noise this year. As well as whoever makes it out of the quarterback room in Carolina, they'll have a superstar in Christian McCaffrey and a very good young defense at their disposal. Let's hope it's Baker Mayfield to make for a fun Week 1 matchup with the Browns, rather than having Sam Darnold out there seeing ghosts.
Ooh, I got Casper in my clothes. Ooh.
A lot of haters will say that the Lions should be in the bottom tier with the likes of Atlanta, Seattle, and Chicago, But Jared Goff has a ton of new weapons and a young, growing defense that, if Dan Campbell can get it to click early, they may have enough firepower and an easy enough schedule that they could unseat a couple of the teams ahead of them. This will be the third season that the NFL has included a 7th seed for each conference, opening the door for an extra wildcard team and ultimately making the odds of reaching the playoffs for a team like the Lions much better. These were the playoff teams in 2021 for the NFC. So to start, Detroit will have to replace one of these. And taking into account that we added Minnesota to the mix, we'll have to identify 2 teams to replace in order for the Lions to make the playoffs in 2022. For the purposes of this exercise, this will be barring major injuries. For example, Aaron Rodgers broke his collarbone with a Super Bowl contending team in 2017, and the Packers missed the playoffs completely. A major injury like this to any of the top QBs in the NFC could make the path to the playoffs much easier, but we aren't wishing injury on anyone. And if the Lions get into the playoffs, it would be much sweeter if it was on our own accord. So starting with division winners, I don't expect anyone to challenge Tampa in the South. I think the Eagles have a very good chance of challenging the Cowboys in the East, and whoever takes second I think will still have a good enough record to easily make the wild card based off of their strength of schedule, which I'll get to in a moment. I expect the Vikings to compete for the North against the Green Bay team with a phenomenal defense, but unproven talent at receiver. We'll see if the Romeo Doubs hype translates to the regular season. And I don't expect much drop-off from the Rams in the West, if any. So with the division titles taken, that leaves 3 spots up for grabs among 5 teams. The second place finisher in the East, Minnesota, San Francisco, Arizona, and one of the 5 hopefuls I listed earlier. Yes, multiple teams from that tier could rise, and Detroit will have to fend them off. But for an informed discussion that doesn't delve into too much speculation, I'm looking for teams that could fall, if indeed it were the Lions that rose from that tier. That said, out of this playoff favorites tier, who should Lions fans keep a close eye on this year? In my opinion, it's San Francisco and Arizona. Why? Well, let's look at strength of schedule first. As I mentioned earlier, the Cowboys and Eagles have 2 of the easiest schedules in all of football this year, with 2 very talented rosters. So I eliminated them pretty easily from this conversation. I'm quite high on the Vikings and expect them to make the playoffs, but with a new front office and a middle-of-the-road strength of schedule, they could potentially falter and be a team that Detroit could replace. But I'm banking on them giving Green Bay a run for their money in the North, so that leaves 2 teams. The Niners and the Cardinals, who just so happen to have 2 of the top 5 hardest schedules in the NFL this year, while Detroit joins Dallas and Philly as having one of the 5 easiest. Let's start with Arizona, a team that started absolutely on fire last year at 7-0 before finishing the season at 4-6, 4-7 if you include a blowout loss to the Rams in the playoffs. They were also dominated wire to wire by Detroit, and when their record was at 10-3. If that continues this year against an even tougher schedule, they could easily miss the playoffs. Just looking at their home and away slate, there are 12 games I've circled as potential losses. And outside of a home game against San Francisco, I don't think there's much of an argument to be had. Doesn't mean that they'll lose all 12, but just losing 2/3 of them puts them at a 9-8 record barring any other upsets. A huge reason as to why San Francisco and Arizona's schedules are so tough is because the NFC West drew the AFC West for cross-conference play this year. And with the 4 quarterbacks heading up those 4 teams, those are absolutely brutal matchups. On paper, San Francisco has 10 extremely tough matchups, mixed in with a couple interesting matchups with teams like Carolina and New Orleans immediately following some of the tough stretches. Yes, this is a team that made the conference championship last year, and if it weren't for a dropped interception, probably the Super Bowl as well, and in my opinion, is less likely to fall than Arizona, who is even missing their top receiver for the first 6 games. But if they did fall, it would be because of the schedule and their current quarterback situation. Jimmy Garoppolo looks like he's about to be traded, and Trey Lance is set to be the starter. I was extremely high on Lance coming out, and I still am, but I thought he needed a couple of years or even more to develop, as he has only even appeared in, including last season, 23 games since high school. I think he has all the talent you could possibly want, and I've even touted him as having Mahomes-type potential. But to expect him to come in and dominate right away isn't fair to him. Could he? Yes. But will he? The jury is out. I mean, just look at the quarterbacks he will be facing off against this year. The highlighted numbers are the quarterback tiers. Lance will have 9 games against Tier 1 or Tier 2 quarterbacks this year. Sure, it isn't quarterback versus quarterback in the NFL, and the Niners have a damn good defense, but this is still daunting just the same. Real quick, I would like to thank everyone who made the Hard Knocks video so popular. And if you haven't yet on this video, please like and subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to bringing you all more content. Okay, so now we've identified teams that Detroit could possibly replace in the playoffs. Now the real question is, can Detroit actually get there? Truly unbiased opinion? I believe so. I think at the very least, Detroit would need 9 wins. Their current over-under is 6.5, and they only won 3 last year, so it would be a massive improvement. On paper. But this team wasn't truly a 3-win team last year. They were an extremely competitive team that, had the ball bounced the other way, could have legitimately won 10 games in 2021. I know, coulda, woulda, shoulda, but didn't. Yes, that's true. But for the competitive outlook of this year's team, let's look at what a much less talented roster did in 2021. Just looking at those last-second losses, Justin Tucker had an NFL record 66-yard field goal, and Greg Joseph hit a 54-yarder. Those both could have easily been misses. We won't even talk about the missed delay of game on the Tucker kick. I'll give Santos his 28-yarder, but the Lions actually had a third-string kicker for the Pittsburgh game called up because of injuries, who went on to miss a game winner in overtime. Just those 3 kicks could have easily made Detroit a 6-win team last year. So yes, on paper, jumping to 9 wins seems like a huge leap, but honestly, on the high side, it's really only a 3-game jump. Couple that with the fact that the Lions have a top 5 easiest strength of schedule, and the picture isn't quite as muddy as one would have originally thought. Let's take a look at that schedule. The Lions won their last 3 at home last year, so I have split this into home and away. With the energy surrounding the fan base and the fact that they had their biggest fan fest turnout in 8 years, I think there could be a legitimate home field advantage this year. Circled in green are games that Detroit should have a legitimate shot at winning, if not be the betting favorite entering the game. There are 8 of those. Circled in orange are games that I think Detroit should at least have a puncher's chance in. Dallas and Green Bay probably stand out, but Detroit is 5-5 over their last 10 games against Green Bay and has a solid chance to split again. And they play Dallas coming off of a bye in Week 7, giving Detroit 2 weeks to prepare, and this is the game that Jameson Williams is currently aiming to make his debut.
Want to see me run to that mountain and back? You want to see me do it again?
Could make for a prime opportunity at an upset. If Detroit can handle business in 6 of the 8 in green, they only need to find a way to pull off 3 of these other games. When you look at the schedule in weekly order, it makes that Week 1 matchup with Philly loom extremely large. Winning that game sets Detroit up very nicely to make noise. While losing doesn't eliminate them by any means, winning it makes the road to 9 wins a lot easier, as it immediately gets one of those 3 out of the way. And if Detroit can get through Thanksgiving with 5 wins, the back end of the schedule stacks up to make a really nice push with what I would call, as of today, 5 very winnable games. There is a fun website called Playoff Predictors, I'll put the link in the description, where you can go through and pick the winner of every game this season and see what happens. I did a run through based on the Lions reaching 9 wins, and they did indeed have a path to the 7th seed. Granted, LA was the 2 seed, which made for a hilarious first round matchup. Could you imagine? It's a fun tool to kill some time and play out different scenarios. If you try it out, come back in the comments and let me know what you came up with. Overall, I think a lot needs to go right for Detroit to make the playoffs this year. The offense should be formidable and put up a lot of points, but any real success will hinge on how the defense performs. I personally want to see growth. I want young talent to start to show its potential. I want less mental mistakes, and I want to see a team that week 1 through 18 continues to not give up. Continue to build that culture and come hard for the division and beyond in 2023. Detroit could arrive early this year for sure. Other teams have done it. I personally have the Lions at 7 to 9 wins, and if they can beat the Eagles in week 1, I up it to possibly 9 or even 10 wins. That said, even if they did make it in, I'm not sure if they would get that elusive playoff win this year, but it's like Coach Dan Campbell says, if you have that grit, man, anything can happen. And the other team is definitely going to know that they played the Detroit Lions. I hope you all really enjoyed this. I know it's all speculation, but informed speculation can prove fruitful. I'm extremely excited to see this team take the field in 2022, and who knows, MCDC's Cubs could find their roar a lot faster than people anticipated. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll be bringing a lot more content throughout the season.
Only challenge each other. Everybody here, we challenge each other. Offense and defense, this is the best competition we're going to get. Iron sharper iron. It's going to be easy in the game because we going against each other. I see too many dogs out here. Offense, we got too many dogs. Defense, we got too many dogs. We going to keep going. We going to fight and let people know, don't put up. We the Lions. Whatever they think they know about, they don't know. Every time we go in the game, we gonna lock them, keep gates, and let them know you stuck with us. Because we about to bury your ass.